So guys, yesterday we made a video going over the Warlock Helmet Deimos Fusion, and today we are here with the Hunter's Exotic Boots Fortune's Favour. If you don't know what this video is about, I'm going to be going over a build theory I did. I have 40 brand new exotics coming with Renegades. This video is going to be focused on Hunters. I made a video yesterday going over the Warlock exotic, and tomorrow I'll have a video going over the Titan exotic. But Hunters, today this one is for you. So let's jump in first with what your exotic actually does. Now on paper, it sounds not great, I'm not gonna lie. This is probably the worst of the three exotics coming with the expansion. That said, we don't know everything about the expansion just yet in terms of sandbox and how this exotic is actually going to function other than the description that we have. So let's dive into the description and then we'll get further into the build. So your exotic is called Fortune's Favour and is a new pair of exotic boots. It states that after landing a final blow while at full health, or when out of combat for an extended duration, your shields will recharge into an overshield. When you have an overshield, your weapons gain increased accuracy, stability, handling, and damage against combatants, and final blows will grant you a short period of increased mobility once the overshield is depleted. So this basically just sounds like you're getting an overshield for basically breathing, which sounds really good, but also very, very boring. But we can actually put this into a Void Hunter build and make it somewhat useful. So diving into the build here, we are of course on the Void subclass because it is the only subclass that is actually able to benefit from any kind of overshield or is able to help us get an overshield. Obviously there is no indication within the description of the exotic that you need to be on a Void subclass for this, so you could technically just use these exotic boots with any old subclass you want and just gain a free overshield, which is going to be very, very nice. But here we're diving into a Void build that takes advantage of this and can help you with additional overshields as well. So going into the subclass itself, obviously your super doesn't really matter, but either Deadfall or Mobius Quiver I would recommend because Spectral Blades just isn't really great currently, although it might receive a buff with the expansion, don't know yet. For the main abilities, I'm using Gambler's Dodge. This is going to be helping us to regen our melee ability, which is going to be very useful a little bit later on. For the jump, I'm obviously using Triple Jump because it's the best hunter jump. And we have the Snare Bomb Void Melee, which is a smoke bomb that weakens targets. And then for the grenade, I'm using Vortex, but you can literally use whatever grenade you would like. Now for the aspects, the first one we're using is Trapper's Ambush. You can activate Quick Fall to suspend your melee ability and dive to the ground, creating a large smoke cloud on impact, which then dissipates and targets caught in the cloud are weakened and allies are made invisible. Also, your smoke bomb just normally will make allies invisible when it attaches to nearby surfaces or targets. So basically, you have a smoke bomb that makes you go invisible, which is going to be very, very helpful and fits in with this build very nicely. Alongside that, we have a Vanishing Step, where using our class ability, dodging, will make us invisible as well. I think you're kind of seeing a pattern here. The whole idea with this build is to be going invisible so that we can get out of combat very easily and have that shield replenish very, very quickly. Now, for the main fragments here, the first one you're going to want to use is Echo of Vigilance, where defeating a target while your shields are depleted grants a temporary void overshield. So in the case where the exotic isn't granting you an overshield as quickly or you've taken a load of damage, you can proc this fragment and just get a temporary void overshield. Pairing that with another fragment in the form of Echo of Persistence, where your void buffs applied to you, Invisibility, Overshield and Devour, have an increased duration, means that this temporary void overshield that you have will last longer, and also the void overshield that I'm guessing you'll be getting from the exotic boots will also last longer, which is going to be very helpful there. These are the only main fragments that you actually need or can take advantage of in the form of a void overshield. The others are just mainly ways of helping you get invisibility so you can get out of combat quicker so that then you can recharge the overshield from your boots. The first one being Echo of Obscurity, where finisher final blows will grant invisibility, and then Echo of Provision, where damaging targets with your grenades will grant you melee energy. This feeds into your smoke bomb, which also feeds into the Trapper's Ambush invisibility procs from your smoke bomb. Overall, this is just going to be a very passive build. It's not very in your face. We don't know all too much about the boots. But if you're able to keep this overshield active and have that free damage buff, we obviously don't know how big of a damage increase it's going to be, but it's going to be very, very useful. Alongside that, one interesting thing that I just came to mind was that I wonder if the overshield has to be a void overshield or if it could be, say, an overshield generated by a Warlock's Healing Rift. So if you stand in that for long enough, you would just gain a free damage boost. And if that would stack with something like a Well of Radiance, I think you gain an overshield while standing in that. So imagine like you just stand in this rift or healing rift with the exotic boots, gain the overshield, and then just get a free damage boost on top of the damage boost you would get from Well. I don't believe they would stack, but if they did, that would be really, really cool. Now, in terms of the main stats you're going to want to use on Hunter, I feel like health is going to be quite an important one. This increases the amount of health you gain each time you pick up an orb of power and reduces weapon flinch from incoming fire while aiming down sights. But the enhanced benefit means that your shields recharge more quickly and have additional health when facing combatants. So if you're able to get this stat to 200, which is the max, and you're able to have the fastest amount of recharge on your shields, this could directly impact how quickly the overshield starts to generate from the boots. So a very, very high health stat could actually be really beneficial. Alongside that, a high enough grenade and melee stat is also going to be pretty good, just so you can get as many smoke bombs as possible, and also a decent class stat so you can just constantly go invisible with your dodge, which would then also help getting your smoke bombs back. Now, in terms of exotic weapons, there isn't really much in the way of a weapon helping to provide you with an overshield, so you can literally just use whatever you want in your exotic slot for weapons, which is going to be very useful. The only weapon that really has some kind of interaction with this build currently would probably be Heart Shadow, as it's another way of just helping you turn invisible. I think Rat King can also do a similar thing, but not many people are really using Heart Shadow or Rat King just generally, so really you can just use whatever exotics you personally like. And that's pretty much everything for this build. Honestly, I'm not too excited for these boots, if I'm being honest. There's not much really going on here. It's literally just free overshield when breathing or when not in combat, which seems to be very counterintuitive for when you would actually want an overshield to be like active. So I honestly don't know how these are going to function. I am very interested in learning how big of a damage boost you gain upon gaining an overshield, as well as how noticeable the actual weapon buffing stats are with this exotic. I feel like it will be a very popular exotic inside of PvP, but PvE wise, I'm honestly not all that interested. Obviously, it's kind of sad because we do have some really cool exotics coming from both Warlocks and Titans, and Hunters here do seem to be lacking, at least on paper. We are still waiting to see what the current state of the sandbox will be once the DLC goes live, so obviously once that happens I will be making a separate video going over all of these exotics once we know more. But to look on the brighter side of this exotic, at least it's not limiting you to a certain subclass, so you are able to just get a free Void Overshield on whatever subclass you want, which could be pretty useful if you are looking for more survivability on any particular build. But I hope this video was able to kind of get your brain going and thinking of different build ideas for this exotic, and with that said, that's all I have for you guys today. So once again, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you did, if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel, I would very much appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next one.